Hey, good afternoon, everyone. We are here for office hours. It feels like it's been a long time to meet my friend Blaine Bartlett. Learn.blainebartlett.com/LMM if you haven't checked out the Mindset Mastermind. You're missing out. It sure has helped me in my life. Blaine, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing really well today. The weather is gorgeous up here in Seattle, up on my island, and life is good.
Yeah, you have to come off of that island now that they've opened up California. We're ready to see you again. So
Good.
come
Well,
on down.
I'll be down and we can start filming. We got the Bloomberg show coming up.
Yeah, we're launching tomorrow my other show, 2-Minute Drill, on Bloomberg and on Amazon. Tomorrow will be episode number 1, season 2. So excited for that. But even more excited to have Dr. Whitney Casares here with us, pediatrician, author, speaker, mom, and podcast host as well. I'm a big mama's boy, so I was really excited about having you on. And I wish we would have had your book that released in May for my mom, which is the Working Mom Blueprint, Winning at Parenting Without Losing Yourself, because I always tell my mom she's a great catalyst, but if she only would take her own advice. And I think so many parents, especially mothers, they give extraordinary advice, but they don't take it for themselves. And, you are much more of an expert than me, but that cycle of burnout and rendering our parents and especially our moms incapable of helping because they haven't helped themselves. What was your personal experience that motivated you to be this, as a pediatrician especially, but an author, a speaker, and a podcast host about this topic of moms taking care of themselves with the correct blueprint?
Yeah, well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Just this idea that you can talk the talk all you want as a mom to your kids, but you got to walk the walk too if you want them to create a path that allows them to be the type of citizens that you want them to be contributors, to not be burnt out themselves, or have this idea that performance and constant productivity is the answer to success. We know that just leads to stress and anxiety for our kids. And that a lot of moms are struggling with this perpetual cycle of burnout and then resentment and then trying to do it all again and then shame and then burnout again. And that's where I found myself when my first daughter was born. She was one of those kids who didn't go by the pediatrician book, right? I had been telling moms for years exactly how to help their kids and to help them thrive. And then when I had my own child, I realized, whoa, there are a lot of things that are out of my control, but there's one thing that I can control, and that is my mindset and the way that I take care of myself, so that when all the chaos comes my way, all of her need, all the need from my partners and in my professional world, that I am approaching it from a place of being really full and centered and content and not pulled in 80 billion directions.
Yeah. When I'm struck by the title, particularly the tagline, Winning in Parenting Without Losing Yourself. And a lot of the work I do is in the field of leadership and leadership development. And I work extensively with physicians in hospital systems and in clinical environments, physician leaders. And the refrain I'm always getting is, I've got too many meetings. I'm just meeting after meeting after meeting, and I don't have time to, and then fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. So and this is where I'm going with this. I'm struck with, winning and parenting without losing yourself. Parenting to me is a form of very specific leadership in a very specific way. And the question, how do you not lose yourself in order to actually be effective, is a big question. So How did you answer that?
Yeah. So I think it is about that word you said about effectiveness versus doing all the things. You have to learn to be effective only in a few things that are in your wheelhouse specifically, or that you care the most about. And my friend Denise Hamilton, who is the founder and CEO of Watch Her Work, she talks about this idea of there are rubber balls that you juggle and there are glass balls that you juggle, and you don't want those glass balls to drop, which are, in my mind, my connection with my kids. It's my career pursuits in terms of my contribution to the world. It's my ability to be whole and to have physical and mental wellness. But there are a bunch of rubber balls that I should totally let drop because they don't matter at all. I should step over that laundry pile. I should let the dishes, sit there for a little bit longer. I should say no to the extra PTA meeting, that's at 10 o'clock in the morning that doesn't fit my schedule. Learn to delegate to other people and to hold other people responsible for things in my household, to create an equitable partnership with my husband. That's the way that you give yourself the bandwidth to really focus in and put your time and your energy towards the things that you care most about and will impact you and other people the most.
And Whitney, you talked about delegation and equitable partnership, not just in parenting, but in our business, as more and more working moms are out there. But I still think that with the best intentions, most moms that I coach or mentor cannot help but feel this shame, this guilt. And I know even with my own wife, and like I said, people I mentor, I logic doesn't make sense. There's something emotional about the guilt or the shame that a mom has if they don't go to the 10 o'clock meeting, or they don't do things, the rubber ball stuff. I mean, and how can women especially get over that trigger to feel shameful or guilty because they're not doing the rubber ball things?
Yeah. So I think there's two parts of that. The first is deciding when you say no to something or you set a personal, professional boundary, that it's because you're saying yes to something else. So I think as women, it's incredibly difficult in general to say no. But if I know that I'm saying no to the PTA meeting because that means I'm saying yes to an hour of cuddled up on the couch reading to my daughter, and that's the thing she and I really need, that's a lot easier for me to see the world the way it really is. And then the second piece, go ahead.
No, I was just going to, I love that because, the quality of any yes is kind of dependent on my willingness to say no to other things. And that's a big deal. So the cuddle time, the quality of that cuddle time is dependent on my willingness to say no to that PTA meeting.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I can't even enjoy the cuddle time if the whole time I'm thinking about the fact that I have to go jump on this Zoom call to be at the PTA meeting, and I'm going to be short with my kid if she doesn't get in the car right away. That's going to damage my relationship further than me pretending like I'm benefiting her by joining some committee I don't even want to be a part of in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah. The second part is developing, and this takes so much practice and has taken me years to develop. So, and all of us are still a work in progress, right? But is developing kind of this positive inner coach instead of this mean inner critic. And the more and more and more moms are really good at this, at being mean to themselves and judging themselves for not doing things right or not being perfect. But the more I practice using things like mindful self-compassion, which there are experts who can guide you in this, right? To say, okay, I'm actually doing the best I can with what I have. Or maybe I did overschedule myself today, but I have an opportunity tomorrow to do it differently. And I bet I could fill a coliseum full of other moms who would feel exactly the same way in this situation. So I'm not alone. I am not the only mom who can't get it right today or who made a mistake today, right?
Yeah. And I think what you're talking about, Whitney, is so interesting because I've been studying the replacement of fear with joy. And so just like most people, men and women, FOMO is, especially as we're younger, something that we have to turn into JOMO, right? The fear of missing out, we turn into the joy of missing out by seeing what we are doing with our time. But there's FOPO too, right? Fear of what other parents think of us, you know? And I see, I have 4 children of my own. And one of the greatest concerns is not the way that I'm parenting my child, because I'm an end result type of parent. Like my single mom was with 6 kids, and she rejoices in the Ivy Leagues and the successes of her kids and the health and happiness of them. So I'm an end result person, but I can't help see the neighbors and the other parents when I don't show up at things, or they give you, and I'm sure you get this as a Peter, oh, you're taking another trip?
Yeah.
Oh, you and Julie travel so much. Who's taking care of Miles? And you like, as much as I teach this stuff, and man, like there's that FOPO again. I'm so afraid of the other people that they think I'm a bad dad, but meanwhile my kids are very healthy, very happy, fulfilled kids that are learning themselves. How do we get over the FOPO stuff?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And we have to address that because other people's opinions do matter to us, which is why I think you're never going to be able to get rid of like all the haters, right? Like I say, like haters going to hate, right? I have a little button that's on my bulletin board at my work that I look at before I go into office visits. Cause sometimes like, parents get mad, things happen, like you can't please everybody, but it is true that we want to at least feel like we fit in or that we're not the odd one out. And so I think the most important thing there is to develop kind of a tribe around you of other moms or other parents who have that same perspective and that same philosophy you do. That's not to say that you exclude other people that have different opinions, but that you do have people in your life who you go back to and they're mirroring back. Yep, I also have this long-term perspective that when I show my kids that working in this capacity, contributing to other women, contributing to things outside of my home and outside of my small bubble, that matters. That when I work, that I show my kids how to problem solve and how to be hardworking and how to be creative. That those are really, really important skills that I am teaching my kids. My little one, my 4-year-old, sometimes she hops on the phone and she'll be like, "Hi, I'm Dr. Casares' daughter, and I'm just, gonna do this live, whatever." And I kind of laugh about it, like, oh man, like too much time with her on the gram, But when I think about it, it's because she's seen me over and over and over give these pep talks to moms to say, put yourself first. When you put yourself first, it's not selfish. That's actually the most selfless thing you can do. Because when your cup is full, it makes it so you can give to your kids. And when you feel good about the stuff you're doing in your life and purposeful and intentional, that actually is the best way to get rid of that FOMO and the FOFO. So I think it's living a life that's intentional, purposeful, knowing where you're going, what you care about, and then also surrounding yourself with other moms, dads, professionals, other support people who believe in you as well.
The Japanese have got a term. If you read Japanese, the kanji word for mindfulness is nen, and it means affectionate awareness.
Mm-hmm.
That's the literal translation, affectionate awareness, and that's what mindfulness is. And the idea of putting your mask on first is essentially what you're speaking to there. That's a mindful awareness. I need to be aware of my needs in order to be a good model and a good leader in my life. So I love the way that you're positioning that, and I love how it provides a way to not lose yourself in the hubbub of life.
Yeah. Yep. We know that moms who take care of themselves are the most effective in their workplaces, with their kids, out in the world. There is nothing worse than a mom who is miserable. A mom who is miserable can do like irreparable damage to people, right? A mom who is joyful, a mom who's in her best spot, like right in it, she can do amazing things. She can change the world.
And they do again and again. Last question real quick, because I'm just thrilled again about the lineup today, and you're just an incredible leadoff hitter here. You have a podcast, The Modern Mommy Doc. You have your book, The Working Mom Blueprint. You're dealing with these issues every day. What's the one thing, as white middle-aged men that Blaine and I haven't touched upon that you hear all the time, or some critical parenting issue that we're missing, or something you'd like to share with us from your podcast or your book?
Yeah, I think the other thing is, as you're kind of alluding to, is how do we have other people who are not working moms come alongside us? How do we change the cultural practices, the societal biases that make it harder for moms to not have that FOMO or FOPO or all the different foes? And I think one thing that other people can do is to be a human out loud or be a parent out loud in the workplace and in the world. So encouraging dads to also talk about their kids and their family and the fact they need to leave early for their kids' soccer game so they can be a part of it. That normalizes things for moms as well. If you are a bike rider and that's like your thing for wellness is that you need some time to build that in. amazing, right? We're all humans. We have different preferences, different needs that make it so that when we come back to work, when we come back to our families, to our kids, that we're whole people who are at our best. And so I think the biggest thing societally is making sure that we are advocating for moms if you're not a mom, and that you are showing up yourself as a full human.
Well, I love it. Take care of yourself to take care of others. And like I said, I'm a mama's boy, so you had me at hello. No pun intended. Thank you so much. People can find you at themodernmommydoc.com. Anywhere else you'd like to have people, obviously they can buy the book on Amazon and other places. Anywhere else you'd like people to reach out to you at?
Yeah, follow us at Modern Mommy Doc. You can DM me. I answer those myself, so you will be in contact with me. We're also starting a new member space at Modern Mommy Doc for working moms, so they can have a library of resources and also connections with other moms, experts who will come talk, and of course our curriculum as well.
Well, Whitney, thank you so much for your service. We appreciate you. I have my Air Force One shirt on, so it's apropos for you're a great American hero.
I love it.
We need more great American moms. That's what we need. And thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Whitney.
Come back to visit. Take care. All right. What a great man.
We're talking about a leadoff.
Yeah. Well, we're moving, keep on moving because Steve Orrin is a legend. He is a chief technology officer of a small company called Intel. Just that not anybody needs to know it's intel.com. It's kind of like Modern Mommy Doc. I'm sure it gets as much traffic as the intel.com website. Steve, been in the industry as long as you and I, in the advent of decades in the Silicon Valley, understanding the evolution of technology and the speed in which the changes of the world are paralleling these unbelievable advancements that we've had. And one of those advancements is, of course, artificial intelligence, which has a variety of stigmas, huge capabilities, and like everything else, because of the time frame in which this has been developed, we have a very little understanding as far as a mass understanding of AI. So I wanted to have Steve on so we could talk about the issues with AI and security, cybersecurity. Obviously, it goes from our finances to our education to our politics, to entrepreneurship, to intrapreneurship, to innovation. Steve, welcome to Office Hours. We're so excited to have you here. Hopefully, you'll be able to pick us up a little bit on what's going on. We'll start with AI, and maybe you can give us a little bit of a historical lesson on the evolution so we can gather some perspective on where and what AI can do, and of course, combined with what Intel is utilizing it for as well.
Thank you, David. And it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. AI is not a new topic. The science and the technology and the math behind it has been around for a number of years, going on 40 plus and even earlier. I think what the two key things that have really evolved along the way is finally we're at a point where the technology has caught up to the science, where we can perform these kind of AI math functions at speed and at scale. And we have enough data now. I think one of the, if you look back at the early textbooks on AI and on machine learning, they were concepts, they were, theories of what you could do.
Or movies.
Yes. But what's changed in the last 10 years is the sheer volume of data that's been generated by everything and everyone is finally powering this evolution of AI, where we can start to train the models and train the artificial intelligence to make those predictions, to do those actions, and to do it in a near real-time or if not real-time fashion. If you look at the technology evolution over the last 30 years, we went from something back in the 80s of what they called expert systems, which really were the first foundations of machine learning, to business automation kind of things, a little bit of robotic automation and manufacturing. But it was really around the automation of processes and basically speeding up things. As the internet started to take off and data started to be generated and stored, and people started looking at these assets they had, then machine learning came into the fore, and everyone was looking at better ways to do things by using data analytics. I mean, they called it big data analytics, machine learning, and data warehousing. And then finally, in the last 5 to 10 years, AI has come into the fore, and it's everywhere. It is pervasive up and down. From consumers, you use it every day and don't even realize it. Every time you leverage your phone, you buy something on Amazon, you're using AI. It tells me what I need to buy my kids for the holidays every time, and it's usually correct. To if you're driving an autonomous vehicle, a Tesla, or even a lane change function in your standard car, is leveraging AI to do that object recognition, to know that's a car next to you or the lane's free. So you're using it in your everyday life. And businesses are transforming how they do business, leveraging AI. So looking at new business opportunities, making decisions based on machine learning is really all the craze right now, because ultimately we need to be able to respond to a very complex environment quickly and with high confidence that we're making the right decisions. So we're seeing business operations being transformed by AI because we have the data to drive that kind of decision making.
There's a double-edged sword, in play here around this, because AI is driven by data, and the security question comes into mind. When we start looking at aggregating big chunks of data that have a very incredibly useful purpose, and AI being a real good example of that. How? And I asked this out of naivete. I was in a conversation the other day with some senior people over at eCentire, which you're probably familiar with them, just around data breach and cybersecurity. How does AI? God, how do I even phrase this question? I'm sorry, Steve. Yeah, what's the relationship between cybersecurity and AI in terms of the firewall?
So the way I look at security and AI is really two sides of the coin. On one hand, we need to secure our AI and secure the data that drives AI, because, like you said, the aggregation of data and has led to the fact that what was considered to be not classified or sensitive information in an AI world, those it's just 6 pieces of information, in some cases 3 or 4, or enough to uniquely identify a person. I mean, the Amazon and the Googles have shown, with the scale of data they have, with something like your zip code, your age, and a couple other pieces of non-important information, they can uniquely identify you. And so the aggregation of data and being able to secure and protect that is absolutely important, especially when you're dealing with absolute PII, private information, like your social security number, your checking account information, your health records. And so we need to secure the data sets that are driving the AI. I think it's also important to note, and this is an old logic saying, garbage in, garbage out. If the data that's driving the AI is corrupted or manipulated, then the resulting AI and the decisions it makes will also be corrupted. And that's whether that's bias in the data sets or intentional corruption of the data. So companies that are starting to make real-time decisions, business decisions, need to make sure they're protecting the data and those algorithms that they're building. The flip side of the coin is that we have an opportunity now to leverage AI to better secure our systems and our data. And it's actually becoming an absolute critical imperative, because the amount of things we have to protect, the amount of data we have to protect, and the number of the risk from the threats have increased so exponentially that throwing more people and software products at the problem, it just isn't scaling. In the last 6 months to a year, we've seen some of the biggest and most sophisticated threats and attacks, between the pipeline ransomware, the SolarWinds data breach, and countless others, even across industries that you wouldn't normally think of being a target. I think one of the most interesting things about the recent spate of ransomware and other attacks is that it's not always the critical infrastructure like the pipeline. We've seen the meatpacking industry get hit in the last couple of weeks. And then last week, McDonald's got hit by a data breach. And so no one is immune. And so it's clear that we have to do something different. AI gives us an opportunity to go in and say, can we use some of these automated capabilities and some of these thinking and learning technologies to try to identify the threats earlier, or to be able to spot the vulnerability that they used to get in the first place? Of course, there's a challenge there. It takes data to protect data. And so this is why there's this initiative going on right now about sharing information cross domain, so that financial services and healthcare and manufacturing can share the right data, so that they can train these AIs to look for that next ransomware attack before it actually becomes a real problem. So there's absolutely some major opportunities for using AI to protect data and to protect our infrastructure.
And of course, we've seen it in the political realm as well, and the power of artificial intelligence can have in swaying people one way or another, or creating a reality. And because we are looking at finite groups and communities, that can be created and manipulated by AI. One of the other interesting things working with one of your partners at Intel is the speed in which we've advanced, especially with AI and technology. One of the concerns that a lot of people have is that technology has outdone our imaginations for the first time, that we can't imagine enough with the capabilities that we have already. And this is the first time ever in history that our imaginations can be outdone by technology. And AI obviously has an important role in that. Where do you see the integration of the most powerful AI in the world that sits between your ears? And when I say that, I mean it as a compliment. That actually may be the most powerful AI in the entire world, your 6 inches. But more importantly, how do we utilize our imagination with all of this technological capability?
Well, I think one of the things that is clear is that innovation and entrepreneurship continues to evolve, and taking advantage of the tools. A great example is the technologies that we're seeing today were thought of several years ago. That next generation of technical workers and business analysts are now starting to come up with cool ideas based on today's technology for the next 3 years. And so we're seeing this evolution continue, and it's actually growing faster. A great example is in quantum computing, which is this new exciting realm of compute that's going to change the way we do everything. One of the really fascinating and exciting parts is that the big problems that they're looking to solve and everyone's talking about building around are taking old problems and saying, I've got a quantum computer, I'm going to have a quantum computer, let me go solve these old problems. The fun is when I start to have a quantum computer, I'm thinking, what problems will I create that are only available or only asked once you have that quantum computer? We're seeing this in AI as well, and it goes back to a fundamental part of when you do an AI, you have to make sure you ask the right questions. And oftentimes we're asking the wrong or old questions. What decision should I make? Or how many times am I going to find a fault in my manufacturing process? When actually you should be asking the different question. And that's the fun that I think a lot of people are starting to have now, is if you have this power of AI and you have the power of the data to drive it, asking better questions is really what that innovation cycle you're talking about. Instead of asking about which direction you want to go as far as a business decision, you should be trying to predict what the outcomes would be depending on those decisions. And so it's, again, asking the questions differently based on having the access to the technology. And that's how I think the imagination will continue to drive innovation going forward. But we still always see the cycle of we imagine something before and now the technology can solve it. We have to keep asking new questions.
That, for me, it brings up an interesting question. And Intel is, this is the poster child for this, Moore's law, the silicon, chip. Yeah. Is there an analog to Moore's law for AI?
I think somebody is probably in a college university right now coming up with the new AI's law. But we do see a correlation. As compute power grows, and married with that, as the amount of available data goes to drive the AI, we see an increasing application and capability around AI. But one of the other things we're seeing is the diversity of AI model types. So everyone thinks AI is one thing. It's actually hundreds of different domains of science. And every time you find, well, I've got the best way to do, so detecting cat pictures on Google, a different algorithm will get you better fidelity or better results. And so we're seeing this generation of new algorithms and new approaches that are matching the technology innovations as well. But at the same time, Moore's law still holds true, because as we reduce the amount of space for the amount of transistors you can put in every 2 years, we're creating the capability to do more with AI, to suck more data in, process more data at once, and therefore get better results out of the AI. So you'll see the AI curve continue to grow as the technology infrastructure, whether that be on-prem or in the cloud, continues to support that evolution.
And with all that said, we know that's all good news for Intel, which means it's good news for you, Steve, Orrin, and it's been great news for us, because sometimes I get on office hours and I think to myself, gosh, my mom spent so much money for my education. I should have just started office hours 10 years ago, because I get an MBA a day from real practical intelligence. And we just are so blessed to have you on the show. Please come back. There's so many more questions that I have. We appreciate you and your company. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Take care.
See you soon. Awesome.
Wow.
When we started doing this, 200 episodes ago, I bet you weren't thinking, oh my gosh, we're gonna have a lineup like this.
Yeah, this is CTO of Intel, pediatrician. This is cool. This is cool. And
we're gonna keep it coming because we now another great woman CEO. Rekha's here, Rekha Schipper, and she's the CEO of Tangram Insurance. But she is, like you and I, a poster child for that book that's over your right shoulder. Compassionate Capitalism, understanding how and why we do things with a certain mission. Rekha, why is it so important not just to make money in your business? Why is it so important to you to have such a big vision and a big mission?
Well, first of all, thank you both for having me. What a cool platform and so fun to be here. This is like a huge question, but a deeply personal one. I think being first generation American, my parents come from a tiny island called Sri Lanka, 90 miles off the coast of India. And I kind of feel like I cracked the code in an industry of insurance where it's fairly male, fairly white, and older, let's just say. And so
basically it's blaming me.
Pretty much. You guys are poster children.
Can I interest you in life insurance?
Exactly. And I work in a niche of corporate insurance. So I feel like I get to do some really interesting things. I still get asked about, can you help me with my auto insurance or my health insurance at cocktail parties? And I have to remind people that that's not what I do. But I will say that
tell them to call Jake, right?
Exactly. But I feel like because I've cracked the code and I've had the privilege of ascending to a CEO role and being a woman of color, it's important to kind of bear that responsibility of moving things forward, of accelerating change, of being transformative and leaving wherever I come to better than how I found it. The company that I'm in, the industry that I'm in, the community that I'm in. And I feel that, especially being a mother, being a community member, being a woman of color, being a first generation immigrant, so on and so forth. So it's deeply personal, and it just feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's more than the right thing to do. It absolutely is.
It's also, to your point, Blaine, it's a smart thing to do.
Exactly.
And, we always in our industry get asked to make the case for, make the case for diversity, make the case for inclusion. And I'm like, we don't need to make the case anymore. The business case has been made. Let's make the moral case now, right? That's where we're at.
Yeah. And that, your business, where you come from. Yeah. And David and I both kind of organize around this. The purpose of business is to enhance the possibility of thriving on the planet. Period, the end. That's the purpose of business. Enhance the possibility of thriving on this planet. And insurance, peace of mind comes into play with that. There's a lot of dynamics that come into play. But how that gets sold, how that gets moved, how that gets accessed, huge distinctions that when you say crack the code, I'd be interested to understand just kind of how, what are the tumblers that you've moved that have opened some things up for you?
So insurance is probably number one or two most ancient industry on the planet. Mm-hmm. It's also trillions and trillions of dollars. People love it or hate it. You love it when you need it and your house burns down and it's there to do the things you need it to do when the worst happens. You hate it when you have to deal with your insurance company trying to find a way not to pay your claim. So I understand those things are in opposition. I fell into the industry at a fairly young age, and I worked for a lot of people that looked a lot different than I did. And I think, yes, I made some good decisions. I took some risks. And I think, like the old adage goes, timing met opportunity, met hard work. So when someone asks, how did you crack the code? I hate to sort of make it sound like this mystical thing. I'm not extraordinary. I'm fairly ordinary. I just happen to make it. And I think it's important for people to know, if I can do it, you can do it. So what are the few, I guess, inflection points in my career that have allowed me to sort of penetrate this industry in a way others have not? I think I have made it a trademark of mine to take fairly complex things like insurance and make them fairly simple. So whether I'm talking to internal customers, that are inside my organization, external constituents, let's not make it harder than it has to be. And there's somehow value and currency in people understanding what the heck you're talking about. And I think I can be articulate and I can be nuanced when I need to be, but I can distill it down. And I think any time that there was a risk to take, I took it. Whether it was moving to this company or pushing my business into a new model, and failed plenty of times, failed fast, moved on, but just kept taking that next risk. And I think, for a lot of things in our life, fear is the thing that comes into play. And if you can find a way to be afraid, do it anyway,
yeah,
it's key. So anyway, I could keep going on with the life lessons at the ripe old age of 42, but I'm sure I have a lot more to learn.
Well, that's a great attitude. And this seems like a theme for today, turning your foes, the fear ofs, to your joes, which is the joy ofs. And you've been able to turn those foes into joes really quickly. But one of the other issues that I face, and, totally understanding your journey and your personal success, and then transforming that into an empowerment platform to help other people achieve what they dream of, and utilizing their skills and knowledge and capabilities and desires. I always tell people that it's unbelievable or unfathomable how big the size, scope, and scale of our audiences and opportunities are today. You came from a little island right off of India, and the world is now your audience and your stage. But on the other side of it, beyond the opportunity, I found, way back when I was your age, that the size, scope, and scale of the audience was also intimidating, and it was a catalyst to apathy. That I found it difficult at times to think, wow, as a conscious leader, compassionate capitalism, as someone who lives in spirit, how can I have any type of impact, because the world is so big. And I've come up with my own formulas in order to, drive and inspire me on my mission to empower over 1 billion people to be happy, to make more money, help more people, and have more fun, which insurance, by the way, is part of my plan and mechanism to help people achieve that. And I have several partnerships in your space and others. But for you, how have you gotten over that intimidation of the size, scope, and scale of the audience that some young woman from some small island just selling insurance can impact the world?
Wow. I mean, it's a big question, and I can't say I've fully overcome intimidation. But I will say the imperative of sharing positive, real things about one's journey in the hopes that it helps others is far, I guess, more overwhelming to me than the intimidation. At some point, you sort of reach that peak of intimidation, and it kind of reaches a tipping point of sort of an urgent call for action, whatever it takes. And I think for women especially, I think for generations that came before me, you had to do it, and the few that made it had to do it in a way that maybe was disingenuous to who they authentically were. And then when they showed up in those positions, not only did they have to act like a man or, sort of fit in, they had to pretend that their lives were totally perfect on the way and when they arrived. And I think they have afforded me the luxury to actually show all the bumps and bruises along the way. I tell women, you can achieve great things and go through postpartum depression, be divorced, feel like financially you've got to build yourself back up, feel scared, feel lonely at times. All those things are parts of my journey that I share. It is a continuous journey, and I think showing them that there have been many knockdowns, get up, knock back down, get back up. I think we do each other a disservice to the global community and women in general and minorities in particular when you try to curate this image of the way it looked along the way and the way it is now. And so I feel really passionate about that. I wish I had more of that around me when I was coming up. So I just feel called to do that. I feel responsible to do that. And I feel a joy, like a real joy.
Yeah. Were you saying something, David? I had a bad connection there.
Oh, no, we're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. David started off this whole segment, talking about, fear, his exploration of fear and joy, and that idea of, and I'm going to, circle all the way back, to Whitney here, when she was talking about not losing myself in the process. I'll just kind of make this compliment or comment. My experience of you is that you have not lost yourself in the process, but in fact, it was a discovery process that has allowed you to be, far more effective than if you had not embarked on this journey. And I just want to acknowledge that because as an exemplar of what's possible, I think you absolutely are stellar in that regard. I love what you're up to, and more importantly, I love how you're up to what you're up to.
Thank you. Yeah, it was hard fought, and I don't want to say that there weren't a lot of moments where you do lose yourself, and your job is to find your way back. There were meetings, there were moments, there were obstacles, and for sure, I did not act out of my full authentic place. I didn't listen to the whispers. I didn't listen to the yells internally and the intuition, but isn't that why we're here? Right? We're figuring it out.
Yeah. Just real quick. One last thing, so interesting is we're evolving. I have 3 daughters who are all getting of age to be employed, 22, 20, and 17. And it was funny because my oldest, who's empathetic like I am and sensitive, she was telling a story and got emotional and started to cry. And, she took on, what people thought of her as being weak or, something like that. And then, I'm known for, especially when I'm speaking publicly, for crying. And she came to work for me and she said, "It's so funny, Dad, that, when women executives cry, they're weak. But when you cry, everyone tells you how courageous you are and how strong you are. Why is that?" And I think it's at the core of what Blaine is saying of why I really am impressed at the milestone that you're setting in your industry, a male-dominated industry, of making certain things just okay. And by illuminating your human aspect, illuminating that, look, just like Rocky, all the great heroes of the white middle-aged male, I got my ass kicked and I got back up and I stuck to it. And whether you're a man or a woman, it takes that desire that you must be what you can be, developing the skills and knowledge along the way. And that's what makes you such a conscious leader and a compassionate capitalist and a tremendous milestone for at least my 3 daughters and many others. And I just want to tell you that stay vulnerable, and it will make you invulnerable. And I will keep my eye on your continued success. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you both for having me.
Yes.
Awesome. Reach out. It's tangramins.com, and just reach out to Rekha. She'll be happy to help you with your corporate insurance needs as well. So thanks for joining us.
There you go.
Take care. Bye. Awesome. All right. Normally I would feel bad for the cleanup hitter, coming off the CTO of Intel and Whitney and Rekha. That's a tough lineup, but this guy can carry his bat as well as Barry Bonds. So Denny Nealon, welcome. CEO of Barclays, U.S. Consumer Bank. He doesn't get any bigger than that. Thank you so much for joining us on Office Hours. And we want to start by your new partnership, the USCB partnership that you have, and I'd love to get a little bit of background Most people like Intel probably know Barclays, but maybe you could give us just a little background about the consumer bank side of things and the new partnership that you have.
Yeah, sure. No, happy to. And thanks for having me tonight. I'm really, really happy to be here. Yeah, so, the U.S. Consumer Bank for Barclays, for those of you that don't really know much about Barclays, big global bank headquartered in London, but also what people probably don't know, a pretty big presence here in the U.S. So we have a large corporate investment bank out of New York, and we have the consumer bank, which I lead out of Wilmington, Delaware. And so we offer, credit cards, loans, deposits, point of sale finance solutions. And what's different about us is we've kind of taken, lemons and turned into lemonade, so to speak. In the UK, Barclays is a household name. It's, just like Chase or Bank of America is here. There's a bank in every corner, Well, that's not the case here in the US. And so while we have a big business to business brand and we have a big balance sheet and all kinds of capacity to do big things, consumers don't know who we are. So we don't have branches, we don't have customers. So the way we go to market is through great partners, so we do partnerships with, great brands like American Airlines, JetBlue Airlines, Wyndham Hotels, just to name a few, and so that's how we go to market. And, we help our partners drive, sales loyalty, and we try to deliver great value and great customer experiences to the customers. So that's what we do. And then I think, you're asking about the amount partnership. We have a couple of big partnerships, actually. I mean, so just this year, we launched a new partnership with AARP. We just announced a big partnership with Gap. And we also launched a really exciting partnership with Amount, which is a fintech partner of ours that we're going to market with to deliver a point of sale finance solution. So some pretty exciting things going on, really.
This whole consumer space, and I'm somewhat familiar with Barclays. I've got a client that I worked with in London,
Okay.
the bank, and on the commercial side, the move into consumer is in the U.S. because, like you said, in the U.K. there's a Barclays on every corner,
Right?
Pretty much.
Right.
What's the biggest challenge that you're, kind of running into here with this move into that consumer space in the U.S. because it's pretty regulated?
Yeah, no, it really is. I mean, it's a really highly regulated industry. But I'd say, being a 327-year-old bank, we know how to deal with regulation. So that's not really the challenge. I think the challenge is that it's, while it's the biggest financial services market in the world here in the U.S., it's also the most sophisticated, the most competitive. So we started off, when I joined, Barclays, I actually joined a little startup called Juniper in late 2004. And within 3 months, we've been bought by the behemoth Barclays, and we had less than $1 billion in loans outstanding, and we've grown it to like 27 billion pre-COVID. So we've had this amazing kind of growth story. But really the challenge has been competing against these huge entrenched banks like Chase, like Bank of America, like American Express. And so the way we go after it, frankly, is, we don't try to duke it out with them, head to head. We kind of try to outflank them, and we use partners to do that, and we think we have a really great platform to do that. And so we kind of bring the girth and stability and trust of a big bank like Barclays with like the scrappiness of a fintech. That's kind of how we like to think of ourselves.
Yeah.
And think about that scrappiness. I recently read my friend's book. Dave McCourt wrote this book called Rethink, and it's about how everything needs to be rethought, especially our financial institutions and services. And you can see that with the quick changing financial atmosphere worldwide, with deregulation and crypto and NFTs and a variety of other things that are going to change the face of finance. For you, that rethinking, what are some of the things that as CEO of Barclays Consumer Bank that you're looking at that you think are a priority to rethink?
Yeah. Well, I think that probably the most important thing is, and it sounds simple, but you have to put the customer at the center of everything that you think about, and it's easier said than done. And so as we imagine, a world where we want to partner with the next great brand, it's like, how do we create a mousetrap where we've got the best technology, the best data science, the best marketing, the best people, and make sure we're doing that all with the needs of the customers in mind. And I think sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but where I'm going though is it's about re-engineering, reimagining customer experiences in a modern digital world. Instead of sending a ton of emails and phone calls and direct mail, you got to be delivering things right on this. It's got to be personalized. It's got to be relevant, and that's what people expect. And so really reimagining how we can create a better customer experience is really where we focus. And the other thing that is really important around that is it's a war for talent. And so creating a culture where great people want to come work for us, where they feel like they're fulfilled, they're doing meaningful work, and they stay. That's huge, and so creating the right culture is really, really critical.
Yeah, I love that, and that interestingly is part of my experience with Barclays initially when I the work I've done in the UK, just the culture. But the thing about and this is a meme that I kind of play with. Professionals don't compete; they innovate. And one of the things that I'm very intrigued with is how you're innovating. Well, but you don't lead with that. It's we're going to innovate on our culture. We're going to innovate on the way that we go to market. We're going to innovate on our partnering initiatives. We're going to innovate on how we bring point of sale to merchants in a way that can brand it. I mean, there's some very interesting innovative techniques that you're doing there that isn't first and foremost about competition, although competition definitely is a part of that. But it's more about how do we establish ourselves as something different that is meaningfully different in this consumer banking space.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think part of that is to do that. I think having clarity of purpose and what we're really there to, who's the customer, what job are we doing for that customer, and for us, it's about helping our partner, our client customer sell more product and drive more loyalty. And so our whole partnership with Amount and this whole move to buy now, pay later, point of sale finance. Well, point of sale finance isn't a new thing, even though people act like it is. It's not a new thing. What we've been doing for years, just through a credit card, is delivering that kind of experience to help merchants sell their products and to engender loyalty. And so as we've seen kind of the move to more digital point of sale finance loans and buy now, pay later solutions, for us it's just a natural extension of what we already do. And when we saw where the market was moving, it's a new form factor, but a really important form factor. And what we recognized was we could build it, we could do it ourselves, but we're a big bank, I mean, it's going to take us years to do it. We're going to move slow, It isn't core to what makes us great, So we do some things really great, like credit, like managing money, and that kind of customer service. What Amount does is they provide us with just as good, if not better, customer digital experience in a fintech that you might see from other fintechs, and yet we're attaching it to our platform. And what's different about us versus some of the others is, we're doing it to not only help the customer, but we're willing to do it in our partner's brand. So it's a loyalty tool as well as just a way to manage your money in installments. So we think there's a real there. We think that the fintechs have, as they always do, found a really specific niche and create a great customer experience, a great product. And now we're going to try to scale the heck out of it, and do it a little bit better and serve our partners in a way that we think others aren't right now.
And Denny, when you're running a multi-billion-dollar business that's consumer-centric but partnership reliant, the corporate values that company was built on are essential. How, number one, what are those corporate values that Barclays has and has relied on for all these years? But how do you decipher the alignment of those values with the consumer-centric distribution and the reliance that you have on partners like JetBlue and the Gap and others, because you're also identified with the values of those companies?
No, you're exactly right, David. I mean, so I think one of the things I'm really proud of too, with I lead this consumer bank in the U.S. It's part of this global bank. And honestly, Barclays has such a strong corporate culture and really strong values that everyone at the bank knows. We care about, people, we care about the communities we live and work. So it creates a great foundation from which we can build really strong, cultures at the local business unit level. But when it comes down to it for us, like our philosophy, our philosophy, certainly in Barclays, but here at the U.S. Consumer Bank, is that we'll offer people a great professional experience, growth company, lots of cool experience. You'll be more marketable after working for us. But more importantly, I feel like people have an inherent desire to be part of something bigger than themselves. So I think that offering the professional part of it is only part of the puzzle. And so what we try to do is offer really those other things that make it worthwhile and meaningful to work at Barclays. And so that, comes through in our community citizenship agenda is huge. We've had years where we've had 90% of our colleagues volunteer or donate. Like, it's off the charts, so things we do, around community and community service, really, really important. And diversity and inclusion too. We really put a huge emphasis on that. Because we think it matters, we think that, not only is it the right thing to do, but when we have diverse colleagues working together, better outcomes and more innovation, so like those are kind of the values that we try to really create amongst our business. And you're right though, like when you're partnering, when you're choosing who you want to partner with, finding companies that share similar values is really important. And you brought up JetBlue. And I gotta be honest, we couldn't ask for a better match there. We do so many things in the community, our employees together. And I think the cultures mesh really well. And that's really important.
Well, you definitely represent those values with respect, integrity, service, excellence, and stewardship. I think.
You got them. I wasn't going to list them all, but you're exactly right. So
I got them. Well, I just remembered, when I'm doing my studying, I just remember rises. I go, Barclay rises above everyone else with respect, integrity, service, excellence, and stewardship. So, all the tricks of office hours, I just turned into a media talent. Here we go. But Illumination's also a lot of fun. So there's tricks up my sleeve. Denny, thank you so much for joining us. Come back again. We'd love to learn more. Obviously, it plays such a big role in everyone's life.
All right. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
Have a great night.
How you doing? What you're doing. Take care.
Bye-bye. How about that? Pulled that out of my hat, huh?
Wow. There goes home run.
Yeah, that's a good episode. It's we're meeting the mark for Bloomberg to put this sucker on TV. You can't get it better.
There we go.
Again, every week it gets better and better. Learn.blamebartlett.com. LMM, the Mindset Mastermind. To that note, what is your takeaway of the day, my dear friend?
My takeaway I'm going to steal this one from you so you can't use it. Moving fear into joy.
I figured.
Yeah. Anytime we go into the unknown, we go all the way back to start with Whitney. Just right on through all of our guests today. The unknown is, there's a polarity with the unknown. It can either paralyze me or it can energize me. And very dear friend of mine, Jerry Jampolsky, who passed not too long ago. You knew Jerry, wrote a book, Love is Letting Go of Fear. And when when you start organizing around love, joy comes into play. What do you love to do? What do you love to do when you're afraid? Look to what do you love to do, and then joy kind of comes with that. Every single guest we had today had an expression of joy going through and with what they were about. And I loved it. I absolutely loved today.
Yeah, I love the FOMO to JOMO, and that was going to be my takeaway, but I have another one up my sleeve. I'm well prepared for this show, just with the caliber of my mentor and partner, Blaine. I have to come to the game with my A game. We're playing chess on this episode. Other episodes with other people, they may play checkers, but we're playing chess on office hours today. And so for mine, it's the spirit of excellence. So Dr. Whitney, Casares, Stephen Orrin, CTO of Intel, Rekha, Schipper, obviously one of extraordinary female entrepreneur and CEO of her Tangram Insurance Services, and of course Denny Nealon, with Barclays Bank. CEO of the U.S. Consumer Bank here in the United States, they all have the spirit of excellence. You know, they have a desire that they must be what they can be. And not only do they have that desire, they have a desire to make you what you must be as well, to elevate others, to elevate themselves. So that's my takeaway. Once again, my friend, 1 month from today, we'll be on set filming for Bloomberg. I just want to congratulate you and thank you all in one. Send you my love. We've opened up California, so please come visit me again. It was so nice to see you last month.
Making airplane reservations as we speak.
You got it, my friend. Thank you so much.
You bet. You take care. We'll talk soon.
We certainly will. Send my love.
Before next Thursday.
Send my love.
You got it.
Awesome. All right, everyone. The incredible Blaine Bartlett. Learn.blainebartlett.com/LMM, the Mindset Mastermind. I am a student of Blaine Bartlett and a friend. And I mean that it means the world to me. Anyway, I want to remind everyone, you can reach out to me for my book, ebook, audiobook. I'll sign a book, send it to you, and ship it to you. David@dmeltzer.com. Tomorrow's a huge day. We have office hours at 5 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Clubhouse, the Perfect Pitch Clubhouse. We're going to talk about pitching techniques, stories, experiences. Training is the perfect pitch as well at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And then, of course, the big launch, season 2 of 2-Minute Drill, hour-long vignettes, lessons, humor. There's everything in it. It is so good. Customized music, voiceover. It is the best content that I have professionally produced. I will put my name, David Meltzer, executive producer, on this sucker because it is awesome, as will office hours be. So big day tomorrow. Join me, David@dmeltzer.com. 5 a.m. office hours, 6 a.m. Pacific time Clubhouse, 11 a.m. Perfect Pitch training. And of course, go to Amazon Prime Video and Bloomberg TV, Amazon Prime, go to 2-Minute Drill. You can search David Meltzer or 2-Minute Drill. Check out season 2. We had pilot with season 1. You'll check out Jason Waller and Rory Kataya tomorrow on Clubhouse and on 2-Minute Drill. But check it out. I promise you, it will not disappoint. But most importantly, everyone, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. I'll see you all day long tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.
Welcome to 2-Minute Drill, the first pitch-only show that features entrepreneurs from all walks of life competing each week for more than $50,000 in cash and prizes. 5 contestants have just 2 minutes to deliver their most convincing pitch ever. Who will fold under the pressure?
Oh my God, I'm blowing it.
You're right, you blew it. I don't want to get you fired.
And who will thrive?
I thought that was aces.
David Meltzer hosts 2-Minute Drill.